Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Help with Natalie Cuomo. I'm so excited to have Stacy Cay on my podcast. How are you?
Thank you, Natalie. Thank you, Natalie, for having me. Right, that's your name?
Yes, that is. I say that to everyone. Like, I make sure, I don't know. Even like when Dan's on, I'm like, Dan Lamort, that's your name? It's
important to establish that you know the other person's name before you're doing a podcast.
You never know.
Right.
You never know.
So, how you been? You wanna lead this thing, I guess?
Yes, I'm good. So you are like part-time between Kentucky and New York City?
Kansas City.
Kansas City.
Yeah.
See,
I mean,
that I should have clarified. It's
Kansas and
Kansas
Kentucky.
City.
They both start with the same letter.
Yeah.
Similar
there we
culture, right?
Kansas City and New York. All right. So, okay, Kansas City. Why Kansas City?
Well, I'm originally from Arkansas.
Right.
And there are no jobs there. So, and also they hate pretty people. So I went up to Kansas City because there was jobs, right?
Yeah.
And that's where I got my first job. And when I was in Kansas City is whenever I started doing stand-up, because it was the first time I was in a city that had enough people to have a consistent open mic, right, to practice on. And obviously, Kansas City's not ideal for me, and I'd like to get out of there soon. I mean, it's fine for having a house, but I don't want to go outside. So yeah, now I do most of my comedy up in New York because that's where, there's a lot more stage time, and it's also like where it matters the most. So that's what I've been up to the last year or so, trying to figure out how to get out here.
Wow. So, okay, Kansas City. What is your job in Kansas City?
I went to college as a guy, right?
Okay.
So I got like a nerd degree, and now I work with a bunch of guy nerds, right?
Okay.
So I know how to talk to nerds.
Yeah.
But a lot of them don't really like women, right?
Right.
Or are nervous with women. So that's been weird getting a developer degree, and then like starting to where people started perceiving me as a woman, and then I started getting assigned all the woman jobs and all that kind of stuff.
Oh
so.
my God. Wow.
Yeah.
That's so crazy. What is that like? Like, especially since you've had both experiences.
I mean, the truth is, before I came out as trans, I was faggy, right? People could smell it on me. I didn't wear makeup. I didn't talk gay or anything like that. But it's just I would do stuff that guys typically wouldn't be fine with people seeing them do, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't exactly have the full hetero male experience, but I did blend in more, right? Because I was in this male dominated field, and now when I transition, it's I'm the one who doesn't get invited out to lunch on the team because they all have got wives and they don't want to, no one wants to talk to me because they're not used to interacting with women in the workplace because they're just so used to it being a male dominated field. And
do you feel like that's because you're a woman or because you're a trans woman?
Starting out, it was more because I was a trans woman, and then whenever I got more surgery and stuff and got better at just presenting myself and dressing and doing my hair, all that kind of stuff. Now I think it's more because I'm a woman. In my head, I assume people automatically know I'm a trans woman all the time because that's how it's been for me for a lot of the time. But I don't think that's so. I think that's more my paranoia now.
Definitely.
And now it's just I'm being discriminated against because I'm a woman, which is a lot better, but
You're
still not
all right.
ideal, right?
At least that's the way it should be. No,
Yeah,
I'm kidding.
it's something. It's a privilege to get discriminated against that way.
I feel like you are someone that really talks that speaks out about political issues and really has a voice on these things in a way that other people don't.
I can't help it. I've been so affected by fascism and the far right evangelical stuff that was pushed through the churches, because this anti-trans movement that we see now in media, they won't shut up about us. They're talking about us all the time. It wasn't like that 3 years ago. 3 years ago, people didn't really. They talked about trans. You've been in New York a long time, right?
Yeah, I'm from
so
here.
you're familiar with trans women, but your whole life, I'm sure, but like most of America, the only time we ever saw a trans woman was like in a comedy show, and it wasn't even a trans woman. It would be just like a guy in terrible drag, and we were always just a punchline of a joke. But they were starting to push like transphobia through churches and weaponizing it politically by like getting them to go out and vote and all that kind of stuff. And I was raised in like a hyper religious like cult, really. And they would just talk about this, like they'd preach like whole sermons about how, you know, being gay is wrong and all that kind of stuff. And a lot of times they wouldn't even give trans women the benefit of like an entire sermon. They would just throw us in at the end of the homosexuality sermon and be like, oh yeah, and that's even worse. Like, we're not even going to talk about that because we all know, right? So I had to like leave my home whenever I transitioned. I had to like, everybody I knew, they had a formal declaration in the church to like shun me. Like, whoa. Yeah, like they like read like a letter like to the whole church. My dad was an elder. He resigned because I came out as trans. And you know, I got out of there. No, not at all. Not one bit.
To your family at all?
No, zero communication with almost everybody I grew up with, except for like my 2 roommates who moved out of Arkansas with me. They got similar situations with their parents, so you know, we're our own family now. But it's just, I wish I didn't have to care about politics. I'm too pretty for this. I don't want to have to know so much about how the Missouri legislature, like the legislative process, because they're just going in there. They're like, I went and testified in hearings and stuff like that, and with them putting these anti-trans bills through. And like the stuff they say in those hearings, like they'll just blatantly be like, I don't think God would approve of this. This is bad for our society. And frame us as like groomers and all this kind of, and this is like in our state Congress. And then they just pass the laws, like despite saying all that crazy stuff. A lot of it will likely get struck down in court because, you know, we still live in America and have basic rights for people. But, it's terrifying as a trans woman in a red state. You can't escape the politics. If you'll just at this point now, you'll just be walking around like, and you will, like, half the time you go out, you'll hear somebody talking about trans women like as a joke, as a slur, talking about you know, some crazy person they saw on Libs of TikTok or whatever, right? So that's why I talk about it so much. I'm not a huge fan of politics, but I gotta like deal with it because it's affected me so personally.
One thing I feel like we were talking about in the green room the other day is like New York and LA, they're so insular, and like people don't even realize how different it is in the rest of the country. Like, I think it's so much more accepted here than, it's almost as if New York, LA, even like Austin, they're like these big cities where like being gay is, or being trans is so much more accepted than the rest of the country. And like you have this firsthand experience of where it's not accepted. Yeah,
it's hard. It's a weird situation with trans people. Gay people are a lot more accepted in middle America than they were 15 years ago. But trans people are now the new thing to shun, right? And the experiences of a trans woman in a red state is so different than the experience of people who've been in New York and LA and things like that. Like, I mean, trans girls here, they can be apolitical. Like, it's not a thing that they have to worry about. Like, I'm constantly in Kansas. I'm constantly like just checking the news to see like, do I need to get out? Like, is it go time? You know. And when I'm in New York, like even when I'm here, it starts like I kind of forget about the rest of the world because there's so much stuff going on in New York. There's so many different types of people, and there's being trans is fine. Like no one, and one big difference is guys don't get bullied for sleeping with trans women like they do in the red states. So around here, you can just brag about like fucking a tranny, right? Like that, no one's gonna really call you gay that much. I mean, they might call you a little gay, but they're not gonna, it's not gonna mean the same thing as it does in red states. And part of it, I think, is because New York, there's just so many people. There's so much going on. There's like a tired tolerance to New York, right? Like
Right.
people just don't have the energy to care so much about what some random person on the street, or even if they know, because there's so many other people, you can just meet new people, right, in New
Yeah.
York. But in these red places and in these places where the communities are smaller, like everybody knows each other, and the social stigma of like guys who interact with us is bad, so they keep it on the down low, and that makes them crazy, like because they have a secret that they want to protect, right?
Right.
And sometimes they'll do violence on trans women if they feel like they need to keep the secret down. So I much prefer being in New York. It's way better, but it is like Neverland, right? You start forgetting about the rest of the world, and that would be nice.
Right. What do you feel like is like what do you feel like could be the biggest like vessel for change? Like as someone that like, do you see like a way for change other than just like, oh, if this person was in office?
Well, I mean, the generational shift, the young people like us, like overwhelmingly young people support trans people, and they don't appreciate boomers passing laws to say what you can wear and like what pronouns you're supposed to use and all that kind of stuff. So I think it really is just a matter of time, assuming that nothing horrible happens. So
Right.
rather than a Democrat getting elected, what's more important is that a Republican doesn't get elected, so that our Constitution doesn't change. Because there was a ruling like 3 years ago. It was before Amy Coney Barron got on the thing, but it was after Kavanaugh. So it was a mostly conservative. Well, a lot of conservatives even ruled, and the Supreme Court ruled that discrimination on the basis of gender, like on the basis of like trans people, is illegal, and you can't, because if you're going to allow women to wear dresses, you have to allow men to wear dresses, or men to wear dresses, because otherwise you're discriminating based on gender.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a really important ruling, and it's going to be useful in defeating all of these anti-trans laws. But that can change, right? They've changed the makeup of the court, and I can't even remember what the question was. Sorry for going off all about this legal stuff.
Oh, I guess just like the biggest vessel for change. I feel
the biggest vessel for change.
Yeah.
Is old people dying.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but that's just how it is. I mean, I guess that's how most human progress is made, right? Like the one generation looks at what the previous generation did and was like, we should change that. Like, let's not do slavery. That was a bad. Right. And as the young generation comes up, they decide what to change about what the previous generation did. And what the previous generation did with us was horrible, right? Like you had the 80s with the AIDS epidemic. I mean, a lot of trans people died then. And that was awful. But now it's like with social media and with trans kids being feel like less alone than back when I was growing up. I think that the future is definitely going to be better in the long term, even if it might get worse in the short term as the hysteria continues to like ramp up. As I mean, it really is a generational thing where the old people are just pissed that trans women exist. Yeah. Like they're so mad. Crazy.
I can't believe. So you have had no communication with your family?
Not one bit. They tell me that they won't agree to talk to me unless I agree to talk only about the Bible.
What?
Yeah, because they want me to. They say that they're disowning me for a biblical reason, right? And the reason they use is in the Old Testament in Leviticus. It says men should not wear female garments. It's an abomination, right? And this was not talked about in the New Testament or anything like that. And they're Christians. They're not Jews. And I mean, I've been the actual text was talking about Israel at the time, and all of the phrasing was at the time. So like, and it was because in Leviticus they wanted to have more babies, right? That was the objective of like the
Right.
whole thing. And, they took that and said that justifies disowning your kid because they're going to hell if they don't detransition. So they just want to talk about the Bible with me. And I feel like I have a really strong case. I know a lot about I know too much about the Bible. I have a really strong case in support of trans people. But they don't care about that, right? Like,
Do you have siblings?
yeah, I have 3 siblings. None of them talk to me. I tried to talk to 2 of the older ones. They're done. But maybe the younger one, just because young people are
Right.
doing better. Maybe one day, like, we'll have a relationship again.
Do you
But
feel like there's something that you would say to like other like young kids in places like Arkansas? Like, what is like a piece of advice that like you took that you could only know from after having experienced all of this?
get a degree. Like, stay in school, get a degree. And don't get a degree in something that's not going to make money immediately. Like, philosophy degrees, English degrees, that's not like something that trans women, unless you got family that can support you, like that's not something that's going to be you're going to be able to support yourself right out of college with. And it's really important for trans people to have that fallback on. So even you have the money to leave, you have the degree to get you hired in a job that will support you in a city that you've never been to. And the thing about it is whether or not your family supports you. If your family supports you, you're doing really good. Like, if you're a kid and you came out as trans and your family supports you, I know kids always hate things about their parents and their family and stuff, but if they support you at all, like, that's really good thing to have. And despite the other flaws they might have, that puts you in a really advantageous position as a trans woman, and you should appreciate that. But if they don't support you, like, things can get better. It won't be like too late whenever you're able to transition. You shouldn't despair, because I didn't transition until I was 24. So I went through all that stuff, and I'm fine now, I guess. But don't give up, stay in school, and get out of there. Like, do what you got to do.
I feel like you have such a powerful story. You seriously, like, people hearing your story is so important. Like, that in itself. I feel like I could talk to you and ask you questions for like 5 hours. And if I had money, I'd be like, you need to write a book now.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, my story's not even that. Like, every trans woman's got stories like this.
Of course.
But they just don't ever. It's hard to talk about being trans in public, because like once you get like to where you can pass, right, where you can blend in, disclosing that you're trans puts you at a lot of disadvantages and stuff. And going up in front of an audience and telling everybody that I'm trans is a thing. A lot of people, like a lot of trans women, are just like, why would you do that? Like,
right.
That's a horrible idea. So a lot of us stay quiet. But
what's your response to that? Like, why do you
because
do that?
I mean, I think that eventually people are going to find out if they can't tell from the way I talk and the things I do. And like, I mean, women aren't into basketball like I am. And I'm autism about the Warriors or the Thunder or whatever, stuff like that. Talk about Russell Westbrook or Kevin Durant.
Why stand-up comedy?
Because it was a way to control the narrative, right? So I got disowned in church, and just like they all blocked me on Facebook. I wasn't allowed in the church. I couldn't talk to any of these people. And stand-up is a place where they allow anything, right? And so there's a lot of transphobia in comedy, but that's fine because I'm allowed to talk, right? Like, I get the mic for a little bit. And because you can say whatever you want, even in places where they're not comfortable with trans women, they have to like let me talk. Mm-hmm. And being able to control what I am in the minds of other people was something that I learned that I needed to do after getting completely disowned and cut off entirely. So that's what my plan is to, and I mean, I want to make trans media, like I want a trans sitcom, like, or drama sitcom or whatever, I don't know. But there's just so many, and I know so many trans women that just have amazing stories that need to be put on in a show or something like that, and none of it's out there. And the material that I can draw on from my experience and all that is, a lot of comics are jealous of me, like non-trans comics.
Yeah.
Are jealous of me for having this writing prompt of being a girl with a dick, right?
Yeah.
I've had so many people try to write material for me, like in Kansas City and all that kind of stuff. They're like, oh, you can use this joke. Like, if I was trans, like this, I would tell this joke. And they're always terrible.
Yeah,
you're
like,
they're
but
awful,
it's not yours.
Right, they don't understand like the human element that makes my jokes funny, right? It's not just girl with a dick, right?
When did you know that you were trans?
I mean, I've known my whole life that I wanted to be a girl. I didn't know that trans people were real and existed until later, but we have early home videos of me like wearing dresses and stuff like that. Given the opportunity, I would always present female. I was a cute little kid, and when I was really young, my mom thought it was cute, and she allowed it. But then whenever I got to a certain age, they made me stop. And like I had a Belle dress, like from Beauty and the Beast, the yellow dress that she wore, and it was from my cousin, given to us in play clothes, right? But I wore it all the time, and then one day it was just gone, and I didn't know where it went. And it wasn't until like a few months ago that I realized, oh, it didn't just go missing. All right, my parents got rid of it because they were seeing their little boy running around cute in a dress and all that kind of stuff. And I found out about like trans people being like real, like not just like white chicks, right? Like not like that, but like they take hormones and they can just like be like women. And I remember I saw, it was Andrea, I don't know how to say her last name, Pajik. She was at the time going as non-binary, and was the marketing around her was like gender bending model, right? And she was so beautiful, but also like really tall, and like she like looked like me, right? And I was like, oh my God, like I could be like that. And as I like learned more, found more people, and realized that like if I take the right hormones and stuff, that I can look like them too. But I had to like really suppress it until I got through college and could financially support myself. And that's when I started taking hormones. And yeah, my life was really sad up to that point. And when I started taking hormones, a lot of sad things happened, like my family disowning me. But it's better than having to pretend I'm a guy when I'm not, because that's weird.
What is the best advice you ever received?
Best advice I ever received. This is, I guess, weird, but it goes through my head a lot. Don't ever do 2 crimes at the same time. Okay? So if your registration is out of date, don't speed, If you got weed in the car, you drive the speed limit, right? Keep your seatbelt on.
So true.
So if you're going to break the law, do one thing. That's how people get caught. That's how people get in jail and shit.
Such practical advice.
Right, because they do too many crimes, Like Trump, if he had only done 1 crime, it would be fine. But he did a billion crimes
You're very
all
smart.
at the same time.
I will say this. This is very practical advice.
My dad told me this, right? And my dad was actually the straight edge. Like he wasn't the type of person who break the law, but I don't know where he got it from, but he would tell me that, and I think about it all the time. Whenever you're doing something that's like someone would get mad at you for, make sure that like your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed in every other regards, so that you're protected, right?
Wow. I really appreciate you being so vulnerable and open.
Oh, no problem. I'm always like this. I can't help it.
What do you think it would take for you to move to New York?
Money.
Yeah.
This place is expensive. I have people who I can stay with for a while, but I can't do that forever. And I need a real apartment. And the thing is I got a house in Kansas City, and I wanna get rid of it. I mean, it's a good house. It's gone up in value, but I can't live in it really anymore. And but it's also like it was a fixer upper, right? We can't just get rid of it because it's got fucking black mold and stuff like that.
Oh, so like if you sold it, it wouldn't have the value.
Well, yeah, like a lot of people just won't want to buy it until you fix it. So it's just like we got to do work on it, prepare it to where I can leave. And also, I'm trying to make more money. If I have my full-time job, but if I started making more money as a comedian, and as a model, then I could be out here more. And this is where all the work is for both comedians and models. So I would make more money in that regards for sure. But New York is just an intimidating place. Like the rent difference from Kansas City to New York is just, it makes people's eyes bleed when they consider coming out to New York. They're just like, oh my God, you can't even get a washer and dryer for $3,000 a month, That's normal in New York. But yeah, that's
right.
That's it, the money.
Do you feel like the community is open here?
What community?
Like, do you feel like the trans community is welcoming here?
So the thing about trans communities is if you live in a place that can have a real trans community, they start to forget what it's like to not have that. And I mean, there's a lot of bad actors that come into our communities and stuff like that. So there'll be suspicion whenever you first arrive and you gotta break in.
What do you mean bad actors?
To trans circle, we're a minority, and we've all got weird situations with our parents, and a lot of us got drug abuse problems and things like that. And there are people that might not necessarily be trans that orbit around us, like chasers and things like that. And it's not just, we don't say chasers just for guys that are into us, but guys who are weird with us, right? And so trans people develop, the longer you go, the longer you're trans, the more jaded and suspicious of other people you tend to get. And trans communities here, you need to kind of prove to them a little bit that you're good before, or that you align with them before they'll start being cool with you. So I have there's a lot of New York trans people that don't particularly like me, already. I haven't met them, but they know me from Twitter and the things that I say like that, because it's a small community. But there's also a lot of people that don't know who I am or do like me. And I prefer to be around people who don't know who I am to start with, right? So they aren't scrolling through my Twitter to see, oh, you said this 3 years ago about trans men, right? But yeah, it's far preferable to everywhere else, because there's just so many trans people here, and a lot of them are also looking for community as well. So you can't just blindly trust people because they're trans. That can get you, I've done that, and get you in a lot of trouble. But there are a lot of people looking for friends, and if you're good and honest and a good friend and things like that, you can make connections much easier here than in a place like Kansas City.
Does the element of touring as a stand-up comedian scare you, as someone that is you have to go through red states and all these places where it just varies so much, right, the level of acceptance? So
on if I'm just on the street, I don't worry about it too much. And if it's my show, I don't worry about that. What I do, I've had terroristic threats called in on my shows in St. Louis once. I had people in guns show up. Well, I had people in guns for me show up to
wow,
to make sure that
you had people with guns protect you.
Yeah.
Can I hire them? Just kidding.
If you have valid, wow,
that's crazy.
There are progressive groups that will show up like to counter protest.
Whoa.
So like if you know that there's going to be
Right.
a whatever protest, there are people who will show up armed
Yeah.
to just like volunteer.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it was pretty neat. But then I don't like just going to like a random place in, Missouri, in the middle of Missouri, where the people there weren't expecting me.
Right.
And just revealing that I'm trans in front of all these families of people who have very tense situations with trans. They're going to start, you can tell from a lot of my shows that the wife and husband are gonna have a conversation about trans porn after they talk about me.
Really interesting.
Yeah, they get weird. They get like arms crossed, and I'll see them hold and laugh sometimes, like go like this, because they don't want other people to know that they think I'm funny, because then they also might think that I'm cute. And if they think that I'm cute and I'm a trans woman, then that's a problem for
right. They feel like they're being judged for accepting.
Yeah,
you.
and I mean, the tables that I do best with is just tables full of all the same gender.
Right.
So like guys or girls, if it's just like a table full of 10 guys, they will
They're not
love
judging
it.
each
They
other,
will
yeah.
eat it up
Right.
because it's funny, and a table full of girls, the girls always are like, whoa, every time I say that I'm trans, I get applause. Kills my punchlines, but
You're like, all right,
it's better than booze, I guess. But yeah, whenever you reveal it to certain crowds that have never seen anybody, because I mean, in New York, you've seen typically a trans person talking with a microphone, or at least a drag queen easily. That's the normal thing. And in Joplin, Missouri, they've never seen that, so they don't even like know how to process it. And they have a lot of guns. So
oh yeah,
if I do a show like that, I do the show and I get out. Like I just drive away. I'm sure there's a lot of cool people there, but like
no meet and greet
I can't
yeah.
risk the other stuff. So I've stopped
That's scary.
trying to tour in other places.
Right.
And now I just do a bunch of stuff in New York, because in New York nobody has guns. And people are used to trans people, so it's just better to practice. And hopefully, whenever I get big enough, and it's my crowds all coming into the audience, or I can tour with other comedians who have similar crowds to mine, and those shows are always great. And I have no problem touring anywhere in the country when that's the situation.
That's awesome. All right, we're gonna pull some tarot cards. Well, thank you so much for opening up, and like honestly, I can't wait for more people to be exposed to you and relate to you. And I really feel like there's going to be, will you shuffle the deck? I really feel like you have so much to say and so many people like relate to your story. And it's really awesome.
Hope your viewers like this.
They will.
Oh, do your viewers, do they care that I don't know how to shuffle?
No, everyone is so insecure about their shuffling.
Why did you
crazy.
do this to me?
Everyone literally... This is like everyone's most insecure part of my podcast. It's so...
You don't have very many poker players?
No, everyone's like... No one is like comes in here like confident in their shuffling.
Yeah, I got something wrong with my hands. I never could figure out how to do it.
No one is a confident shuffler. I honestly should make a compilation of every single
You've
person.
not known... Well, I mean, I guess people that you have on this show. But I remember kids like... bragging about how good they were.
Well, I don't know. I just do like a...
Okay, that should be good.
All right, cool. We're going to do like a past, present, future thing for you. All right. So your past makes so much sense. This card is your past. This is literally saying like there's a blockage that you need to face in order to move forward with your life.
What's that? The sun?
Is the sun, yeah. So like something is blocking you in order for you to move forward with your life.
Is it eclipse?
Yeah.
Do we have a camera to where they can see what it is?
Yeah, but I edit it. But that's like, I feel like that's like your past. Like you had to.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Leave Arkansas.
I had a sword like that. It looks like Glamdring, Gandalf's sword.
That's like makes sense for your past card. So your present. Oh, the Son of Cups. This is either you or someone in your life. Has to do with emotion. I gotta read the book on this. But this is like a characteristics of a person, the Son of Cups. What's your present? And it's like a quality or a person like helping you along in your life. Okay, and then the future. Okay, there is like all of this stuff around you that's like kind of making you feel like you can't go anywhere.
I'm a
Like, yeah, you're the
pupa.
butterfly, and you need to just. It's like all of these external things are making you feel like you can't spread your wings.
Right.
But
Yeah, that works.
all right,
You
we're
pull the
gonna
trans card. Swan is a trans imagery
really.
thing because swans come from ugly duckling to swan, right?
Whoa.
And so is butterfly because butterflies go caterpillar to butterfly. So a lot of trans people use those as imagery for whatever.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I guess I should have said okay. The present was the Son of Cups, past was the Two of Swords, and the future was the Eight of Swords. Okay, we can read them from the book.
Do they all like have swords in them or something? Is this like a medieval deck?
No, actually, so these are like the swords are like the air element. So you just happen to get a sword heavy reading. What's your sign?
Sagittarius.
Really? When's your birthday?
December 15th.
I'm December 17th.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
Interesting. All right. Okay, future. Eight of Swords, trapped, powerless. I don't know. You do feel trapped in Kansas City.
Yeah.
I don't know. Surrounded by obstacles and threats, you find yourself the victim. You see no way out, no available choices. Your perceptions keep you from opening your wings and taking flight. What keeps you suspended here, yourself or others? Eight of Swords demands an answer. You can't hang here much longer. So this means you're gonna get out of you got to get out of Kansas City.
Right.
That's my interpretation of this one.
Okay.
That's just, but I don't know. Maybe not. You're like, I hate this card. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, I think that counts. I know. Gotta get out as soon as possible.
Okay, but this we love. Artistic, introspective. The son truly excels within the arts, usually a musician or a visual artist. Finds success within his field. His natural tendency to look inward adds to his charm and mystique. To others, he may seem secretive and even peaceful, while deep inside, he carries a dark kernel of intensity.
Okay.
Okay.
Here, I'll get you a pin. You'll put in comedian in there too. So
yes,
right.
Exactly.
That should count. I feel like they were leaving us out.
Right. And then the two, block vision, stalemate. That's the past. Two of Swords depicts two opposing forces that have reached a stalemate. You cannot progress forward with either a relationship or life decision. There's an answer that's being blocked, maybe by choice. Many times this card will indicate you do not wish to face the truth the light will reveal. That makes sense for your past to me.
It does, yeah.
But
yeah, maybe I am mentally ill. This makes sense.
no, you're not mentally ill.
Seeing patterns here from 3 random cards. All right.
No, but I feel like this is like a really like beautiful artist. This is like you had to become Swan. But I really feel like you should move to New York. Butterfly will spread its wings in New York.
I agree.
But yeah, I don't know. You sell the house in Kansas City or Kentucky. No.
Yeah, I'll sell my Kentucky house too.
Yeah, honestly, if you sell the Kentucky and the Kansas City house,
I'll be doing great. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have a show also, right?
I do on Saturday.
Sleepover party?
No, we're not doing that one. They told us they didn't want to do the same event 2 years in a row, but that they would just allow me to headline a show. Okay. So me and Robin Tran, which we've done a few shows before in the past, but she's like one of my favorite comedians. She I don't know, she just really makes me laugh. She's going to be doing more time than me. And I'm just going to enjoy watching her. I'm really happy to be co-headlining a show with her. And it's going to be 6 p.m. at the Stand, which is a good time.
Nice.
My past Stand shows have all been at midnight, which is rough for turnout.
6 p.m. is better for
6 p.m. is far preferable, and on a Saturday, that's definitely
that's awesome.
Yeah, we can do it. I'm sure it's going to be a great show.
Yay for New York Comedy Festival.
Yeah, I'm excited.
That's exciting. Well, Stacy, thank you so much for joining me. Where can people find you?
Just Google Stacy Cay. I'm on everything with that. My Twitter is Stacy Cay Slays. Because the original Stacy Cay, I blocked too many accounts and had to create a new one. Every other platform, I'm pretty much just Stacy Cay. It's with a CAY on Instagram and
not with a K.
Not with a K. No, that
With a
sounds
C.
vaguely racist. I don't know why.
Oh. Amazing. And thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe to The Fourth Wall if you haven't already, helpwithnatalie.com. And please subscribe to our new YouTube channel, and we'll see you next week. Thanks for watching. Bye.